There are several different colours of washing up liquid. The fantastic amount of things a manufacturer of wants and needs just because of this necessity to keep producing for sale. The market's got to keep expanding, or it's not working. Now, what we suggest is that the people who do all of this work, and as someone else pointed out, that capitalism is worked by workers, that it shouldn't be done for this for the profit motive. We should do it on our own behalf. It's not an ethical matter, it's the material interests of those who do all of the work to abolish capitalism and to take the political action to do so, so that we actually produce necessary things, useful things, and produce them just to be used and not to be sold at a profit. Because someone mentioned common ownership, but common ownership means that not only do we own the means of production, but own the things that commonly own, the things that are produced. And the equality that we want is the equal right of free access to what is produced. And it doesn't mean, that the larger person has got to eat a small meal because they've got to have an equal amount of food. It's the equal right of free access to what is produced. That's the equality that we want. And as I say, the capitalism has played its part, but it's now standing in the way of the progress of the human race to have a world really fit for human beings.
Yes, I'd like to underline the question that Pat asked, that John Meadowcroft says that, if I understood him right, Marx didn't define capitalism. But what Marx did was describe the process of capitalist production. And in the very first chapter of Capitalism, he says capitalist society is the society where the wealth takes the form of, I think the phrase is an immense accumulation of commodities. And then he goes on to analyse what the commodity is, because that's the basic unit of capitalist production. And capitalism is commodity production because it's also a society of class ownership. So capitalism, for Marx, I think, could be summed up as class ownership and commodity production. And in contrast to that, socialism would be a society of common ownership and production for use. In other words, there wouldn't be prices and markets in a socialist society. Now, if Marx didn't define capitalism, John Meadowcroft, as far as I could hear, didn't define socialism. And possibly in his summing up, he might do that for us. But from what he said, the implication of what he said and what I got out of it was that his view of socialism was really capitalism with a specialist class of planners plan the markets and plan prices and so on. But for us, that's not socialism. That is simply another form of capitalism. And my final point is the point John Meadowcroft made about non-market economies being more unequal than market economies. Did I understand that right? That non-market economies are more unequal.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around, so in that case I'll shut up.
Oh, Jen, that would be
yeah, feeling a bit tired now and thinking about going to the pub. Just a couple of whimsical remarks. The gentleman over there, a very generous chap who's going to give 95% of his profits as a businessman to the staff and to the workers. Well, I think under the theory of surplus value, Spanish my friend down, he'd have to give that extra 5%, would he not? No, that's a bad joke, okay. The business, I mean, I read in the Independent the other day about reference to Mr. Blair. You know, that man who pushed more privatisation than Margaret Thatcher ever did. And he said he was going to halve child poverty by 2010 and he's going to abolish it completely under 2020. Well, I don't think there's much chance of that, is there? And the other comment about human nature is one that's always puzzled me. Because I see people behaving differently in all sorts of different ways. I know people who give their blood in this country for no financial reward. They do it. And some people work for charities for no financial reward. These are some aspects of human nature that are not talked about in this sort of arena. Well, unless Mr. Headicar talks about it, of course. But the thing about human nature is, how can we say that every French person has the same ideas? How can we say that every English person has the same ideas? Someone in Burkina Faso has the same ideas. You know, there's lots of malleability in human nature. So I don't think there's a fixed idea of human nature.
When people are threatened, they become protected.
Well, we're certainly threatened every day at the moment, aren't we? Threatened losing our jobs. We've got a crisis of overproduction at the moment, no one's spoken about this, but loads of workers thrown out of work, not because they're inefficient, but there's too many cars being produced on the market that can't be bought because people haven't got the money to pay them now.
Yeah, I'd like to refer back to what you said earlier on in your opening section, when you talked about you need like workers, like to produce a cake, the more workers you've got, the bigger the cake. I mean, something along those lines. Well, I mean, I've been a worker all my life, and I spent the first 10 years of my life working in every construction, steel mills, power stations, that kind of thing. And when I went to work, I mean, every day I went to work, we was always scheming to try and to do the job as easy as possible. It was hard, difficult, irksome work, uncomfortable work. And when I look at capitalism, I'm amazed, I'm absolutely amazed that this unbelievably embarrassing system can sort of like go unnoticed. In that they call capitalism an economic system. Well, I mean, if you sort of trace it back to the Greek, economics means like housekeeping. It's the most absurd way of keeping house because capitalism is a commercial society, a market society. It throws up consequences that have to be dealt with. So in the market economy, you've got to have banking, insurance, taxation, advertising, money, debt. You've got to have police, prisons, the law, armies, navies, air forces, military, industrial complexes. You've got to have gambling, stock exchange, stock traders, stock brokers. Weights and measures, customs and excise, trading stands, people working on checkouts, people in marketing, people in sales. Now, all this work is absolutely essential to capitalism. It has one thing in common, not one scrap of it. Produces any food, clothing, shelter, medicine, education, art, music, dance, sport, literature, none of it. All this work does is essential to capitalism. It just keeps the wheels of capitalism rolling, keeps the profits rolling in. Now, the joke about this is it's been estimated that it absorbs around 80% of all social effort. But that means that there's only 20% of us producing food, clothing, shelter, medicine, education, etc. If it was 50%, which is far greater than that, far less than that, it would still be the embarrassing scandal. Now, what the Socialist Party put forward is you abandon all that useless, unnecessary toil. And then what you do is instead of just 20% available to do this useful, necessary work, producing these really human goods and services that are essential for fulfilling food, you've got 100% of us available. Now, that would mean two things. One, nobody would have to volunteer to turn up for more than a couple of days' work a week doing something socially creative, something productive. Secondly, instead of producing